Now, when we do bring on Chris, do not mention the light, okay? Do not mention it. Everything's fine. It's looking fabulous. It's not angelic and glary at all. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Gareth. Look, I'm broadcasting from a home this morning, not from college, and the lighting is not quite as good as we have in college.
So, working from home, I guess.
I'm working from home today, yeah, for quite a bit of this week. It's reading week, or half term as it's sometimes called, and no lectures this week.
But I imagine plenty of marking to be done.
Oh, there's all sorts of things to be done, administration and preparation and loads of planning. I tell you what, Gareth, we actually as a college do a lot outside of the actual college campus. So in terms of other churches and networks and so on, it's not as if things completely go quiet, even if the students aren't in lectures.
And also potentially doing a bit of digging, do you think at all?
Do you know, I've got nothing...
Only in the garden?
Oh, well, yeah, maybe something in the garden would be good. I wish I did have something coming up soon. I need to get booked into something. Then I can have some fresh stories to tell you.
Which leads us nicely to this. Our regular Monday feature, where we're joined by Chris from Moorlands College, senior lecturer.
Oh, thanks for the promotion.
All right. Soon to one day be principal. How does that sound as a promotion?
Steady on. What are you offering? Is this an interview?
Well, leave it with me. I know people in high places.
We all know people.
We'll see. So, this is where Chris educates us on artifacts which have been found around the world and tie in nicely to biblical times or stories of the Bible. And sometimes he will have replicas of the artifacts. Sometimes he'll have the proper artifacts there. Or sometimes he'll have miniature versions like he did do last week when we spoke about the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I try my very best to describe it to you whilst I've got him on the camera. But the good thing is that you will be able to see this later on in the week when it goes up on all our social channels. So, Chris, over to you, my friend.
Great. Well, Gareth, okay, so you've got to describe this one. This is life size, is a replica, but it is the exact size. So take a look. I'm going to get it nicely in the light using it this way around. And I want you to see if you can have a go at describing this beautiful object, which your listeners will be able to see a little later on. What do you reckon we're looking at there?
It looks slightly like a chess piece. It looks like it's some sort of gaming token, if you want to call it that. But then again, the shape of it. So let me explain. If you had something on top of a bottle, and it was maybe a bit fancy on the top, and has it got 5 or 6 sort of bits coming off the top?
Yeah, six on the top there.
So it's got 6 almost little small branches coming off the top. It looks like it could be made of something like ivory or bone, maybe.
Very good, yeah.
And it's got some sort of text around the bottom of it as well. So for me, I'm tempted to go for a gaming token, but then again, I don't know a game that would use something like that. So I'm going to go to it. It was to keep something in the bottle, maybe something like that. Anywhere near.
Not bad. I mean, I'll tell you more later on, but I mean, I will just say it's 3,000 years old. And I'll also give to you right now that, yeah, you're right about the ivory or bone. They call it ivory. It's made out of. It's actually made out of hippopotamus bone. But they used to call that ivory in the ancient world for whatever reason.
So that's what I've described. I wonder if you can get anything from that. It's almost, I mean, that's as far as I can probably take it, to be quite honest with you. It's about, would you say 2.5 inches, maybe 3 inches?
That's not bad. I reckon just 2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches. Yeah,
and
that's not a bad description, actually, Gareth. I mean, you are a bit far off, but the description was good.
Now, I wonder if anybody can guess from what I've described what that is that Chris has got in his hands. If you can do, then the best place to go for this is WhatsApp. The number is 0161 511 9555. 0161 511 9555. You get involved with us. You tell us what you think it is from my description, however good or bad that is. And after this from Imagine Dragons, we'll tell you what it is. It's really interesting, some of these guesses coming through that you're saying. And I love the fact that I do try my very, very best to describe what it could be, but it is a struggle. I mean, you know, bear with me on this because I'm trying to describe something. If I knew what it was to start with, it would probably be a little bit easier. But I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about it. So I'm trying to describe to you, to tell you what it could be. You'll be able to watch it back on the video, of course. But this is, if you missed it, this is our regular Monday feature, Digging in the Dirt, where Chris from Moorlands College, he brings an artifact. Sometimes it's the original one. Sometimes it's a replica. It could be a smaller version of it. And we've got almost like a game piece, something that you would imagine if you were to buy a novelty chess set. You may find one of these in there. We found out, or I think we found out, that it's made of either ivory or bone. It's about 2.5 to 3 inches tall. It looks like it will go in the top of a bottle. And then the top of this has almost little short branches coming out of it. So that's what I make of it. But now to find out exactly what it is, here's Chris.
That is not a bad description at all, Gareth. What you're looking at here, this particular one was on display in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem for about 20 years. And then it was taken off the display. I'm going to tell you why a little bit later on. What you're actually looking at here is a beautiful, intricate, carved fruit. It's actually supposed to represent a pomegranate. I've got a pomegranate here, okay? Now, actually, ancient Israel really had a special kind of affinity with the pomegranate. And I'm going to talk about pomegranate again in a second. And these little carved ivory pomegranates, there's several that have been found. There's one in the British Museum, actually. If you're in London anytime, you go see it for free. It's on like a wand. It's got like a stick that it's attached to. It's not a bottle stop, looks like that, but it's actually snapped off. There should be a long ivory wand coming down. And these were used by the priests in Old Testament Israel. They would carry these around as a mark of their kind of role, a carved ivory pomegranate. Now, this particular one was very, very special. It was found around 1980, 1979. And what's special about it is it's not only one of these carved pomegranates, but it's got writing on it. Early Hebrew writing. That was that text that you saw there, those letters. And this early text, it says on it that it's holy to the Lord and that it belongs to the temple of Yahweh. Now, Yahweh is the name Jehovah. It's the name of God. So holy to the Lord, belonging to the temple, suggests that this belonged to the temple in Jerusalem. It was a staff that was used by a high priest in the temple in Jerusalem back at the time of Solomon. Now, I'm going to come back to why it's a pomegranate in a second, but just to say the Israel Museum got hold of this, and it was it cost them back in 1980 £500,000 to buy it. £500,000
Wow.
buying it in 1980, and that's 1980 prices, right? I mean, nowadays that would be several million. However, there was a debate from around 2000 as to whether it was a forgery or not. And they took it off display because there were a lot of question marks over where it came from. It wasn't found by archaeologists digging holes. It was found on the black market, and that can be suspicious. So it was sent away for testing. And originally in the testing, they thought it might be a fake for various reasons I won't go into. So they took it off display. Just recently, they've tested again, and now actually the evidence is it really is genuine for a number of reasons. They don't know where it was found exactly. We've got others that have been found in Jerusalem, in Lachish. This is the special one because it's got the writing on it. And now the consideration is it may well be genuine. Okay, so why is it a pomegranate? What's this all about? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. We know that this particular one, this particular example, is even if the text were a fake, we know that this particular pomegranate is a genuine pomegranate, carved ivory pomegranate from the ancient world. And in the Bible, the pomegranate is mentioned a lot. I don't know if you remember, they built a temple in the Old Testament to worship God. And one of the decorations in the temple was pomegranates. In fact, there were two big pillars standing outside, and they each had a pomegranate on top. And in Jewish tradition, a pomegranate is very important for its symbolism. Now, this particular one that I bought from a supermarket that will not be named is beginning to turn because the top of it has lost what's a really beautiful crown feature, which is what you can see on the ivory pomegranate. So the top of a pomegranate, take a look in the supermarket and you'll notice a nice one will have a crown on the top. And that's half the symbolism of the pomegranate. The crown represents God as king. But if you slice it in half, inside you find lots and lots of seeds. They're a bit crunchy, aren't they, pomegranate seeds? It's superfruit. And in Jewish tradition, there are 613 seeds. So next time you get one, slice it open, see if you got 613.
Is that? I never knew that was the case. And to be honest, a pomegranate is my favourite fruit.
Well,
I put it in salads and everything.
Oh yeah, I find them a bit crunchy actually. But anyway,
I absolutely love it.
A lot of people do, and of course they're really, really good for you. I mean, this is superfruit stuff. Now those 613 seeds in Jewish tradition represent the law, because I don't know if you know this, but if you add up all the laws in the Old Testament, there's 613 laws in the Old Testament. So putting that together, this is the fruit that brings together God as king because of the crown on top, and God who gives the law, God as judge, because of 613 seeds inside. I sliced one in half and counted it, and I only had 200 seeds in there, I reckon.
No,
They vary.
Honestly, Chris, that is absolutely fascinating. I am blown away by that. Well, I never knew.
Yeah, next time you're eating a pomegranate, you are right back in the world of ancient Israel, because they repeat that idea of the decoration of the pomegranate quite a lot, and it's the fruitfulness of Israel, it's the law, it's the king, all those things come together in this one particular superfruit.
Because what's interesting is I'm actually growing my own pomegranates, and it is possible to do it in the UK, depending on whereabouts you are, which is why I've got now a little miniature greenhouse in our garden, because in the south of England, really down south, it is possible to grow them outside. The problem is in the north that we tend to have colder temperatures. But I've managed to actually grow, I mean, I've been growing it for about 4 months maybe. Okay. And it's very, very small now, but that is incredible how there's that many seeds in it, and that you're holding up represents it, and the crown on the top. I never thought about any of that.
Yeah. Well, you challenged me now. I'm going to grow a pomegranate down in Bournemouth, right? And I'm going to compare the pomegranate I grow with the pomegranate you grow in Manchester.
And whichever one has got the right amount of seeds is clearly the holiest of people.
Let's put it to the test.
Really interesting. And you were just talking then about, people suggesting that maybe some artifacts may be forged and some may not be true. I wonder if that's something we can touch upon next week or following weeks, because how are these items verified? And the reason I ask this is there was a great TV program a few years ago about a gentleman called Sean Greenall. And I don't know if you've heard about him, but he was a Manchester lad born in 1961, and he was an expert forger. And when I say expert forger, between the dates of, the program you have to watch, but between the dates of 1989 and 2006, he was knocking out fakes to the point where he sold one to the British Museum for something like, I think, £10 million. And it's a great documentary if you get to see it. And he was making them in his parents' shed. And he absolutely fooled all the experts. And the techniques he was using, I remember one. So there was some sort of pattern on this artifact which had disappeared in maybe the 1940s or something. And he'd basically done the effect on it by going in the garden and getting some sort of tree bark and rubbing it on the top. Maybe I'm completely wrong with that, but that's the sort of thing that this documentary talks about. And he fooled all the experts.
I tell you, there are forgers around in every different area of life, and they are really, really clever people. I mean, it's criminal, it's immoral, but They are very, very clever. The lengths they go to get those forgeries just right and fool the experts. It does happen. Yeah, next week, that'd be a great thing to talk about, actually. I can show you a fake and we can talk about, some things you can be absolutely sure are genuine, some things you can be absolutely sure are fakes. And then in the middle, there are these things that fool the experts, really hard to discern.
Where do you sit on the Turin Shroud, Chris?
Oh, that's a great one. We'll talk about that one. I actually, I struggle to think the Turin Shroud is a fake. Everything I've looked at, it could be a fake. It could be a fake, but everything I've looked at with the Turin Shroud, I still do not understand how that could have been faked, and there's no convincing explanation of how anybody faked it in the 13th century. So I do think, I'm not saying it's necessarily a burial shroud of Jesus. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I really struggle to see how that's a fake. And none of the explanations of the faking have really convinced me. So I really do think we should do the Turin Shroud one breakfast morning.
You see, really interesting stuff, this. And Chris is from Moorlands College, if you don't know. And do you know, Chris and the team, they will be able to walk you through things like this, questions that you've got. They've actually got some of these artifacts on site. They may have replicas, they may have the original ones. Maybe Chris is knocking them up in his shed right now, who knows? But the website is moorlands.ac.uk. And the great thing is that it's not just reading books. It's not just going, right, read this now and believe it. It's actually active. It's an active learning process that they do. And you can see all the courses on their website, the prices. There's full-time courses, there's part-time courses. If you fancy having a little preview, maybe even, in fact, if you fancy having a pop down there, I'm sure the team will arrange that and give you a tour of that.
Yeah, and I just tell you, Gareth, if you go on the website, November the 14th on a Monday evening, we're doing a completely free showing of a brand new film I've done on Jesus in the Holy Land, telling the story of Jesus on site, where he went and what he did. So on November the 14th, if you want to book a ticket and come down, anybody in the area or want to make a trip, you'll have a great Monday evening at Moorlands, completely free. I might even give you popcorn, and you'll get to see the site as well.
Moorlands.ac.uk is where you need to go to. Chris, always a joy and a pleasure. You have a great week, won't you?
Thanks, Gareth. God bless.